Kabilang sa mga pangunahing karapatan ng bawat bata ang malusog na pangangatawan. Ngunit, hindi lahat ay natatamo ito. Isa sa mga nakababahalang problemang pangkalusugan ng mga kabataan ang pagkabansot. Pero, ano nga ba ito? Ang pagkabansot o stunting ay ang hindi tamang paglaki ng mga bata ayon sa angkop na tangkad para sa kanilang edad. Ito ay sinusukat gamit ang statistikong tinatawag na standard deviation. Ang standard deviation ay tumutukoy sa pagkakahiwa-hiwalay ng mga datos kumpara sa karaniwang nakukuha sa isang populasyon. Mas mataas ang standard deviation kung ang datos ay mas malayo sa mean o average ng isang populasyon. Itinuturing na bansot ang isang bata kung ang taas para sa edad niya o height for age ay mas mababa ng 2 o higit pang standard deviations ayon sa World Health Organization. Kung nais malaman kung ang tangkad ng iyong mahal sa buhay ay angkop sa kanilang edad, maaaring bisitahin ang website ng World Health Organization para sa karagdagang impormasyon. Ayon sa pag-aaral, isa sa bawat 3 kabataang Pinoy edad 5 pababa ay bansot. 15% ang stunting rate ng mga sanggol na 6 hanggang 11 buwang gulang. Halos doble naman ito ng stunting rate ng mga kabataang 1 taong gulang na nasa 37%. Sa mga batang edad 3 at 4 na taon naman, ang stunting rate ay nananatili sa 30% o higit pa. Isa sa mga itinuturing na dahilan ng pagkabansot ang hindi wastong nutrisyon ng ina bago at sa panahon ng pagbubuntis. Subaybayan ang aming susunod na video para malaman ang iba pang mga dahilan ng pagkabansot at kung paano ito maiiwasan. Sama-sama nating wakasan ang pagkabansot ngayong Nutrition Month 2020. Batang Pinoy, sana tol! Iwas stunting, sama all! Iwas all din sa COVID-19. Hanggang sa muli, ang mensaheng ito ay hatid sa inyo ng Philippine Association of Nutrition Alpha Chapter. Kung nagustuhan nyo ang bidyong ito, huwag kalimutang i-like at i-follow ang aming page para sa karagdagang impormasyon tungkol sa nutrisyon. Sa nakaraang video,
Ayon, so good afternoon everyone. The Philippine Association of Nutrition Alpha Chapter proudly presents PAN Month with its webinar entitled TUSOK-TUSOK, Poking Around the Nutrition of Philippine Street Foods. I am Guada Sanchez.
And I am Isaiah Manuel Sagitan, and we are your hosts for today's webinar.
This webinar is also brought to you by the Philippine Association of Food Technology Alpha Chapter, University of the Philippines, Dalaman, UP Statistical Society, and special thanks to UP CMC FST Konse, Geographical Society of the University of the Philippines or UP GeogSoc, UP Future Library and Information Professionals of the Philippines, UP Haring Ibon, UP Physics Association, and UP Red Cross Youth.
Thank you everyone for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. We hope that you will learn a lot from our distinguished guest speakers.
Before we proceed to the talk proper, let us officially start this program by calling on our project head, Ms. Laika Tesea, to deliver her welcoming remarks.
Hello, good afternoon, viewers, guests, and speakers. Every year, the month of March is designated as the PAN month to commemorate the foundation of PAN-Alpha's mother organization, Philippine Association of Nutrition Incorporated. In order to celebrate this in a rich Filipino culture, PAN-Alphas came up with a theme, Lakbay, a journey to food across intercultural boundaries towards healthier communities. This webinar is the culminating event of our PAN month. Since our food dreams evolve around the street foods a lot, this virtual talk is also a way to help educate viewers about the topic for more mindful and healthier food consumption. Without further ado, I would now like to formally welcome you all to TUSOK-TUSOK, poking around the nutrition of Philippine street foods. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for the wonderful opening remarks, Miss Laika. We are indeed excited for the things we will learn today. Am I right, Miss Guada?
Tama ka, Isaiah. I'm super thrilled to know more. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker for this afternoon, who will discuss the food safety of Philippine street foods. So, our speaker is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Nutrition and Dietetics and Masters in Food Science in the University of Santo Tomas. She is also a board-certified nutritionist dietitian. She has a nutrition counseling platform named Nutrition by Beatrix, and she specializes in weight management and lifestyle diseases. Our speaker is also an entrepreneur. She founded startup project FitPH, a nutrition platform that provides nutrition coaching and meal delivery service. So under the same brand, she also does Spotify podcasts that focuses on nutrition and wellness tips. She was also the former program head and a professor in the Nutrition and Dietetics Department in Colegio de San Juan de Latran. At the, at the present, our speaker is a researcher and developer in the same university and also in Manila Titana colleges. She also owns Shakira, a shake stall in De La Salle Pa. So, I would like to call everyone to please join me in welcoming our first speaker, Miss Beatrix Ina Mercado, R&D MSFS. Yay!
Hey, so hi everyone, good afternoon. Okay, so today I'm going to present about the food safety regarding, mga tusok-tusok. So let me just share my screen. Ayan, okay. So can you see my slide?
Yes
Yes.
po.
All right, so food safety of the Philippine street food. So who here is a fan of eating street foods? Show of hands.
All of us.
All of us. Ako din, me too. I'm a super fan of street foods. But I'm just gonna share a very quick story regarding street foods, which is also parang nakakahiyang part that I experienced when I was way back in college as a nutrition student. Um, I was I love consuming street foods, specifically isaw. Oh my god, just the scent, the way it's toasted, super sarap, right? For me personally, I love it. But then I over exceeded consuming. So normally I consume 3 or 5, but that day I consumed 13. Guess what happened to me the next day? So I had diarrhea for a whole week. So anything I eat, I just poop it out. I had diarrhea. I even felt very dehydrated. I even had a mild fever simply because of consuming those isaw. Okay, so was it properly handled? I have no idea. But is it food poisoning? Definitely. So later on, I'm gonna share what caused it, why did it happen, and of course, I know that I am not the only one who experienced it. All right, so which means that there is still a certain aspect when it comes to food safety and street foods here in the Philippines that is not well established. All right, because maybe at some point, if food safety was properly established in the street food industry, I might not have experienced it, and many people would not have experienced it as well. Okay? So, now a brief history. Saan nga ba talaga nanggaling yung street food sa Pilipinas? Why did it emerge? So, Filipinos are very creative, and Filipino street food is mostly born from hardship. Why? Because way back during the colonization age of this nation, meats are very expensive and they are normally of high quality. So they only serve lean meats, yung malaman, and yung mga balon-balunan, mga internal organs, skins, they are normally discarded. So what happened is that those Filipinos working way back during the Spanish era, they made those skins, those balon-balunan, a staple food for them so that those poor or low income families during that time up until this time can afford such protein, such meats without hurting their pockets. So doon nang galing, doon nag-originate ang street foods. And what's good is that since Filipinos are very creative, it is also very tasty. It's surprisingly tasty actually. Imagine your intestines. Who would have thought it would taste that good? Ihawin lang and put some sauce, right? Who would have thought that meat, chicken feet would be also good? And even yung liver, dugo, atay, right? Who would have thought na lutuin mo lang siya, kala natin sa limit lang makukuha yung sarap, but just toast them, add some sauce, and eventually the flavor elevates. So that's one thing. That's one good thing about street foods. So street food is a testament to the adaptability and ingenuity of the Filipino people that these parts have been turned into some of the most delicious and affordable bites of food. So highlight the term affordable. Why? Because we'll also dive into it. So the benefits of street vended foods. Bakit nga ba siya beneficial lalo sa karamihan? From middle to low, even to high class people here in the Philippines and even around the world, actually. So first, they are inexpensive and convenient. You just stop by, tusok lang, kain na. Pangtanggal gutom, pangkain lang pag natatakham, right? So there's kwek-kwek, there's fishball, kikiam, so many things, and even fruits. Yung iba may mangga, tapos pineapple, they also serve it, and even corn. They just add cheese in it. So, na-try nyo na ba yan? Yan. So, yun, may mga corn, tapos lalagyan pa ng cheese powder, tapos ang sarap-sarap na. So, it's also a source of attractive and varied foods. So, there are so many varieties. Beyond meats, yan, meron din tayong fruits. Alright? And more than that, meron din tayong drinks. So many. Hindi lang dito lilimit even sa noodles, right? So may mga street foods na din around the area, especially in schools and in bus stops. Ayan, may mga noodles na rin. Lalagay lang ng fried egg. Ayun. So those are some of the street food examples. So major source of income for a vast number of persons, a chance for self-employment. So ito din yung isang benefit of street foods for those who are not so educated and also for those who have not found jobs yet. So this is a good small business for them. Okay, so it means it's good for economical aspect in terms of the yung mga low income profiles, and also it's good for low income people as well to afford such things. So it helps balance the economy. So economic, taste, flavor, affordability. So these plays all a role when it comes to the benefits of street vended foods. So next. So now, what is the problem when it comes to street vended foods? Ito na yon. So yes, we praise them, but there is also a downside. I believe in any industry, this happens. So hindi lang siya sa limited sa street foods. So however, we're going to focus on the street food itself. So first, there is lack of basic infrastructure and services such as potable water supplies. Ayan, so tanong, saan nyo ba nakikita saan nyo ba nalalaman kung saan nakukuha yung tubig ng gulaman na iniinom nyo? So, fun fact, here in our area, so it's near a church, may nagbebenta po ng gulaman along with, what do you call that, banana queue. And kinukuha po nila yung tubig sa banyo. Ayun, so after I learned that, hindi ako nagulaman doon because it was really surprising and hindi ko in-expect because ano yun parang may nakalagay doon na water jug. So I was expecting na doon kinukuha, but then what happened was nire-refill lang pala yung tubig doon sa water jug and eventually kukunin lang nila doon sa lagay, sa banyo and ipapainom sa amin. So sabi ko, shock, sige. After that, no more. Ayan, so which means if there is lack of potable water, there could be again a food poisoning experience. Why? Because we all know that water should be sterilized or it should be at least clean before we consume it because we could suffer from diarrhea, E. coli once we consume this. Okay, lalo na pag sa mga lalo na sa mga sensitive age groups. So normally they're pregnant, old people, young children, sila yung mas madaling ma-expose, sila yung mas mabilis saktan ng tiyan. Alright, so this is one lack, or this is one problem when it comes to the street vended foods that is linked to our health. So next is difficulty in controlling the large number of street food vending operations because of their diversity, mobility, and temporary nature. Pagbawalan mo lang sila today, wala na yan, but kinabukasan nasa kabilang street na yan. Alright, so normally ganun yung kalakaran. Even though there are laws, even though there are, let's say, mga bantay, kagawad that imposes a strict regulation when it comes to this, but because of its temporary nature, its mobility, kahit pagbawalan mo sila, susulpot at susulpot yung mga yan. Okay? They're very creative and they always find a way. Ayan, so bakit? They need it, but also other people look for it. They have a huge market. So street foods are actually a very huge market when it comes to the Philippines. So next is insufficient sources for inspection and lab analysis. So here in the Philippines, ang mga gumagawa nito is of course DOH, but however, it's not properly established. Also, there are some students na ito yung nagiging thesis nila when it comes to street foods, kumusta ba yung bacteria, kumusta ba yung handling. And still up to now, even though there are studies, even though it's been studied since the 1980s, imagine since the 1980s, inaaral na siya, it's still not properly established. Why? Because again, going back to its mobility, going back dahil temporary siya, and also there is really no law or no proper regulation on how to fully establish them. All right? Kasi if they are well supported, of course, they will be backed up immediately with the lab analysis and proper inspection. Ang nangyayari kasi normally is that, halimbawa, may street foods and then pagbabawalan, wala na. Yan. Dahil lang bawal. But we fail to look into inspecting it properly and we fail into how to properly establish them in such a way na long term. Mas maganda kasi if street foods are more long term. Why? Mas maganda rin kung mas regulated. Bakit? Because that's where we could properly inspect and properly establish a study kung saan mas safe siya mako-contribute or madi-distribute sa mga tao. And also more than that, mas nagiging mas nagiging literate din yung servers themselves and yung owners themselves. So also another one is general lack of actual knowledge about the microbiological status or precise epidemiological significance of many street vended foods. Because ang nature kasi is that pag masarap, pag mura, go. Diba? Sino ba maayaw nun? Masarap na, mura pa. Hindi push. Ayan. So, however, hindi karamihan inilulook into yung studies or yung microbiological nature ng mismong pagkain. Kasi normally kasi mas nahuhook tayo sa, of course, sa mura tas masarap. But we fail to look into the food safety aspect. So it's very important for us, everyone, the public, the vendors, the owners, the food handlers, to be knowledgeable into these aspects so that we could prevent food poisoning, foodborne illnesses as well. So for knowledge of street vendors and basic food safety measures, again, they should really be established para at least somehow ma-address yung poor knowledge, okay, ng mga street vendors. Because once they're established, they will know on how to properly handle them. And this could also answer yung problem ng temporary nature. Kasi pag established na yan, mas well-regulated and also hindi na sila paalis-alis. And then inadequate public awareness, ayan, this inadequate public awareness of hazards posed by certain street foods. Ako, I personally learned yung mga bacteria nung college na ako. Although sinasabi sa akin na yung street foods daw, delikado siya, kasi yung, let's say yung isaw, puro tayong loob, wala akong pake. Ayan. But then when I learned about how they are handled, I was more careful a bit, but I was not fully aware on really when it comes to the food handling matters around it. So if the public, kahit elementary pa lang, na-orient na, it would be better. Okay? Kasi mas alam nila yung i-consume nila, mas alam nila yung dapat nilang kainin and kung gaano karami. And also, even yung mga vendors are also more aware on how to handle and distribute them properly. Okay, so ano siya kasi when it comes to street foods and health, it's really an interconnected matter. So the government, the street vended foods, the public, consumers, the suppliers, ayan, sobrang maraming contribution. Okay, hindi lang natin pwedeng i-blame or i-question dun sa mismong seller alone, but it's actually very interconnected because if everyone is helping one another, I bet there is really a high possibility na mas magiging less yung food safety hazards natin when it comes to consuming street food. So next, what is food safety? Okay, so before we tackle yung mga food poisoning and bacterias, bakit nga ba importante ang food safety? But before that, let us know what food safety is. So food safety refers to the handling, preparing, storing food in a way to best reduce the risk of individuals becoming sick from foodborne illnesses. It's not completely eliminate. I hope we can, but that could happen when it comes pag ano na yan, may HACCP na talaga when it's properly handled, perfectly handled. So may mga large companies na gumagawa nun, but right now, I want us to focus on how to best reduce it, not completely eliminate, because when it comes to the street food aspects, it's highly impossible, but somehow reduce the risk of individuals. So dun muna tayo sa risk reduction because it's more realistic. Alright? So now our street foods safe. So quick answer, of course, sadly, it's not. Are we aware? Maybe 99% or 90% of us are aware that street foods are not safe. Ayan. So, especially right now during COVID, I bet may mga kumakain pa rin ng street foods because in our area, may na mga nagtitinda pa din and I see people lining up, nag-street foods pa rin sila. So, imagine despite the food safety hazards and the COVID hazard, nagko-consume pa rin and despite the fact that it is still unsafe. Okay, so yeah, let's lay it out there. Are street food safe? No. And especially here in the Philippines. All right. So now raise of hands if you have experienced diarrhea, stomach pain, fever, or vomiting from consuming street food. So yeah, so you could raise your hands if you experience it. So I see one, ako, two, yan, two, three. Ayan, pang four ako. So yan, four. Alright, so marami-rami na rin tayo naka-experience nun. Okay, so, sige, let me call out si Jem. I want you to share your story regarding what happened to you when you consume street food.
Okay. So, kasi po, nung high school ako, yung high school ko sa Quiapo. Tapos, so lagi kaming nandun sa, madaming doon, di ba po, yung mga street food, bilihan ng street food. Tapos, dun po sa may malapit sa Quiapo Church, bumili po kami ng mga friends ko ng isaw doon. Once lang, parang tinry lang namin. Alam namin na hindi talaga ganun ka-safe doon. Hindi ganun ka-clean. Tapos once tinry namin. Tapos yung once na yun, hindi na talaga naulitan kasi kinabukasan, nag-diarrhea po ako dun sa, sa isaw. Sa isaw nila. So, ayun po.
Alright, Halsey, pala tayo ng story ni Jem. Ayan, diarrhea sa isaw. And hashtag never again. I know how you feel, okay? So,
Yes
Jem,
po.
thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Ayan, at least we learned from the past. Ayan, so again, thank you for sharing. So, I bet, ayan, so paramihan talaga sa atin, not all, but some of us or most of us have experienced these So it means, sadly, na food poison na tayo at one point in life simply because of consuming street vended foods. Okay? So, now, bakit nga ba nagkakaroon ng food poisoning? Bakit nga ba nagkakaroon ng diarrhea, vomiting, and even fever to some? Okay, yung iba na hospital pa. It's simply because of food-borne illness. Ayan, so this is the root. Okay, kung bakit nga ba tayo nagkakaroon ng sakit. Dahil nag-consume lang tayo ng pagkain. So imagine, oh, it's sad, right? Parang kumain ka na nga lang, naargabyado ka pa, nasaktan ka pa ng tiyan, pero masarap naman. Nag-diarrhea nga lang. Ayan, so it's still a sad story that I hope that sana in the future and even sa future ng street foods and other food industries here in the Philippines that we get to enjoy food without worrying about its food hazards, which means we are assured to ourselves that it's really clean. So, foodborne illness here is caused by consuming contaminated foods or beverages. It could be from gulaman, juice, buko juice. It could be from yan, mga isaw, mga kwek-kwek, balon-balunan, dugo, or even yung mga pancit canton. It could happen, okay? Simply because they are contaminated. So, highlight the word contaminated foods or beverages. So most food-borne diseases are infections caused by a variety of bacteria, viruses, and parasites. There are so many bacteria and viruses and even parasites causing foodborne illnesses. But ayan, it will take a full day for us to discuss it. So we're just going to discuss the top 5. So other diseases are poisoning caused by harmful toxins or chemicals that have contaminated food. So when it comes to harmful toxins or chemicals, this might be due to accident, leakage. So this also happens. Like kunyari, natapunan ng gas, natapunan ng certain chemical. Okay? So it could also be sabon. Alright? So yun yung mga cases. But right now, we're going to focus on the bacteria that cause foodborne illness when it comes to street foods. So here, foodborne illnesses that you can get from street vended foods. So foodborne bacterial pathogens commonly detected are number 1, Bacillus cereus. So commonly found in soil, vegetables, and even many raw and processed foods. So food poisoning may occur when foods are prepared and held without adequate refrigeration for several hours before serving. So which means kunyari, let's say yung mga kikiam, 'di ba dapat normally bago sila lutuin, kailangan frozen, tapos store, and then luto agad. But what happens is that, kunyari morning, tanghali, let's say tanghali, normally naman tanghali nagsisimula yan. Tanghali, isoso na yan. And then until gabi, nakasto pa din. And then nainitan na yan. Tapos, what if ulan na rin. So, it means yung temperature. Okay? So, mishandled and inadequate proper temperature handling. Okay? So, it means it was not refrigerated properly or it was not thawed properly as well. Or ano siya, parang sobrang tagal niya exposed sa room temperature tapos saka lulutuin and then kakainin agad. So, those are some of the downsides when it comes to being exposed to Bacillus cereus. So, what will happen then kung kunyari nagkaroon ka ng infection from Bacillus cereus? So, you could have diarrhea and also fever. So, yun yung downside niya. So, again, here with Bacillus cereus, temperature plays a role. Yan. It also, even dirt. So, dirt, temperature, and raw. Kung hindi siya properly naluto. So, lack of cooking, it could also happen. Alright, so next is Clostridium perfringens. So foods such as meat, poultry are cooked and held without adequate heating or refrigerating before serving. So again, ito, mishandled temperature, undercooked, or even, yun nga, exposed sa room temperature and even sa araw. Okay? So what you'll notice is that when it comes to these bacteria, temperature, environmental exposure, they play a role. Okay? Malaki ang role ng temperature when it comes to food poisoning and foodborne illnesses. Ayan, so normally they are the core So normally temperature, yan yung core problem when it comes to food poisoning and food-borne illnesses. That's why temperature is very, very important and should not be neglected. Because oftentimes, let's say sa bahay nakakasanayan na, okay, nasa room temp naman, safe naman. So it means nagiging habitual na parang, okay, kakain sa labas, tapos yung temperature, room temp naman, tapos undercooked slides, so okay lang. And then eventually, na-adapt mo na rin. So, we should not neglect temperature, okay? Kasi temperature, water, so they are one of the core problems when it comes to foodborne illnesses. And again, we should not overlook them. So, maganda is that you properly cook them well. Make sure that the street vended foods are properly cooked well. If they are undercooked, especially yung mga atay, Betamax, those types, don't consume it. Or make sure that you ask the vendor to recook it. Okay, reheat it. Para lang sure na luto siya properly. Why? Because if undercooked siya, you will definitely suffer. Okay? Because again, temperature plays a role. So next, Staphylococcus aureus. So this can be due to improper hygiene of the cook or seller. Okay, so mishandling of food and foods kept at incorrect temperature. So again, ayan, lumabas na naman sa temperature because they really play a role. And also, unsanitary utensils and surfaces. Kumbaga, yung utensils na ginamit, sinawsaw, yung marami nang nagsawsaw, may marami nang nag-dip kung iba-iba ng tao. Like, let's say, kumain ng kwek-kwek, tapos sinawsaw, tapos kumain ulit, tapos sinawsaw ulit. Like, imagine yung laway, halo-halo na. Ayun, so that's already unsanitary. And please, if you see it, just don't consume it anymore. And ayan, so also, improper hygiene. So I see this a lot of times, and it's honestly disheartening, confusing, and really a bit cringy. Like, kunyari may mga iihi na, of course, men or even women who sells, and then they don't practice proper hand washing, and then they touch the food. Kasi normally, mga frozen foods naman, kukunin lang nila sa plastic, tapos idediretso na sa, dun sa prituhan. Or, tas after nun, hahawak pa ng pera, tapos ibibigay sa'yo. So, so many adventures na nangyari dahil, ayan, dami ng bacterial adventure na halo-halo. Okay? Just simply because of improper hygiene. So I hope that you know the seller or you know very much well around you kung paano hinahandle yung pagkain. And I hope that yung seller na yun also practices proper hand washing. Okay? So very important ang hand washing, not just because of COVID, but especially due to food handling. Okay? So that you could avoid food poisoning as well. So mishandling of food. Okay, so it was also explained earlier. Again, dapat thoroughly cooked sila. And kailangan from the supplier, proper temperature until cooking and preparation. So supposedly, utensils are sanitized properly, kahit hot water yan, or even washing the dishes properly. They are very, very important. And be very observant when it comes to food, street food, because there are some street foods who really does not care about its sanitation, but there are some na OC sila. So kumbaga, they do not allow anyone to dip into the sauces, but they give you, okay, yung cup, tapos ipupur. Sila na yung magpupur, tapos sila yung magbibigay sa'yo ng sauce itself so that hindi nakakahalo-halo yung laway. Why? Bakit? Bakit hindi ideal yon? Because it's also costly for them. I-discard din nila yon, and also mabilis siyang mapanis. Okay? So kaya ginagawa ng iba, sila na yung nagpupur ng sauce sa'yo, and then individually na ibibigay. Okay? Mas maganda yon rather than halo-halo yung laway sa isang sausawan. Okay? So next, Salmonella spp. So this resides in the intestinal tract of humans and warm-blooded animals. So chicken, baboy, baka. So they are shed in the feces. So these are normally found in the intestine. So salmonella is common in isaws. Okay, so kung mas maraming feces, mas masarap, ika nga. Ayun. But I hope that soon, when it comes to isaw, mas maganda talaga is mapapansin nyo, mas manipis. Because pag mas manipis yan, it means mas linis. So the spread of Salmonella spp to carcasses may occur to the abattoir environment during slaughter and through fecal contamination. So the spread of this pathogen can occur from cross contamination from raw foods or infected food handlers. Okay, so cross contamination, which means make sure that the utensils that they used from raw to the cooked one is very different because dun pa lang may cross contamination na. Alright? So next is E. coli. So they could be acquired from contaminated water. Yan. So bacteria, E. coli, are also found in the gut of slaughtered animals. So these are the top five bacteria that could be found when it comes to street vended food. There are more, but these are the five most common. So what you'll notice is that cross contamination, unsanitary practices, contaminated water, and temperature, they all play a role. So now, what can you get from street vended food? Of course, diarrhea, stomach cramps, vomiting, nausea, cholera even, and fever, plus food poisoning. So things to consider. So make sure that the location of the street food or where you'll buy is mas ayos tingnan or mas properly sanitized. Kasi ano eh, parang imagine, let's say, sa street food, di ba maraming mga nagbo-motor, may mga even bikers, tapos magpa-park lang sila, and then pipilahan na. But we should not neglect na dun sa area na yon, let's say sa main street, ang daming nagpa-pass by na tao, and more than that, ang daming nagpa-pass by na sasakyan. So, even air pollution, even yung dust pollution is already found in the food that you will be consuming. So, mas okay yung sa mga iskinita or sa mga bahay-bahay. Ayan, mas maganda yung location na gano'n versus dun sa mismong main city. Okay? Simply because of the air pollution that keeps on passing by the food itself. And also food handling and waste disposal. Yung iba, mas nasa baba nila yung basurahan, at yung iba nasa tabi. Alright, so I hope that you become wary of that. And if not, pwede nyo namang i-pass by, or I hope that if you have the courage na sabihan sila na mas ideal kung nasa baba yung basurahan kaysa nasa taas, it will also be good. Ayan, so water source. I hope that you are more aware of the water source that they are getting it. Kasi ayan, here in my experience, I knew where the water source was, so dito na kino-consume ulit. So it's also ideal for you to know because awareness means you are more aware, more informed of what you should do and what you should not consume. Okay? So equipment handling, ayan, yung equipment handling, mabilis silang makita at first sight. Makikita mo agad kung naghahalo-halo ba, marami bang nagsasawsaw, paano ba niluluto, nagga-gloves ba siya, raw ba yung pagkakahawak niyo doon sa mga food, magkakatabi ba yung raw at saka cook. Ayan, kasi when it comes to street vended foods, makikita mo agad yung mga pinpoints na dapat magbuhin, dapat i-improved, or dapat nilang i-remain. Okay, so just be more aware and just be more observant and vigilant when it comes to this. And also the food source. Ayan, so normally naman makikita niyo yung packaging, if it's really clean, or also you could ask them kung saan galing. Because normally what they'll say is from the grocery store or from the palengke. Ayan, I would suggest na ako personally, I would suggest that if it's street foods, just cook it at home. Ayan, kasi at least ikaw mas assured ka sa self mo na mas malinis talaga siya. And ikaw na yung mismo nag-handle. But make sure you also know to yourself that you also practice with caution and sanitation, because if you're also unsanitary, if you also mix raw with cook, if you also handle foods without washing your hands, wala din. Okay? So make sure that these are the things you consider. So here is a sample when it comes to the street vended foods in the Philippines. So, ayan, meron tayong vendor location. So, the hazard is here, improper food handling and the risk involved. Yan, ito na, cross-contamination. So, may mga transfer of bacteria na. So, possible po ba na may salmonella, E. coli, and S. aureus sa isang pagkain? Yes, very possible. Lahat ng yan. Parang kape 3-in-1 or yung iba nga 5-in-1 pa eh. So, improper waste disposal. Again, sa location yan. So, the hazard here is improper waste disposal. So, now what's the risk factor? So, again, it's transmission of these pathogens. And now the raw material. So, yung mga foods na ginamit. So, water. So, passage of pathogens like E. coli, fecal streptococci, salmonella, and Vibrio cholera. So, vegetables and spices. So, introduction of spore formers. So, these are also bacteria. So, which means, kapag mishandled si vegetables and spices, ang mangyayari dyan, kahit wala silang bacteria from the supplier, but na mishandle sila, ikaw pa mismo yung mag-grow ng bacteria. So, very important that you handle the vegetables, the food itself properly, so that you yourself will prevent on growing them yourself. Okay? Sayang naman na nakuha mo sa supplier or nakuha nila sa supplier ng malinis tapos dadating sa kanila because of mishandling, nagdumi. So, which means it would cause more bacteria and form bacteria. So, utensils and equipment. So, chemical contaminants. So, leaching of chemicals leading to poisoning. So, this could be due to spilling of, let's say, gas or spilling of oil, yung mga oils, or even spilling of mga sabon. Okay, so microbial contaminants, so cross-contamination of food with S. aureus, E. coli, Shigella due to contaminated water, dishcloth, and handler. So, by the way, take note of the basahan. Mas maganda, yun, be more aware of kung saan sila nagpupunas-punas and kung ano yung itsura ng basahan na nila. Okay, because it might be weeks na, tapos madumi pa rin. So, pass. Ganyan. So, storage and reheating. So, improper storage temperature and reheating of food. So, likelihood of heat-stable toxins produced by C. perfringens and B. cereus. So, here also personal hygiene of vendors. So, it's a biological hazard. So, it means they personally could be a carrier of these bacteria. So, these are the sample sources. And then the hazards and the risks involved. So imagine nyo, from the source, pwede kang carrier, pwede silang carrier, or pwede ka rin palang former, which means ikaw yung mismong magkukos or gagawa ng bacteria itself simply because of mishandling. So now, how do we achieve food safety here when it comes to street vended foods? Of course, properly cleaning and sanitizing the surfaces, iba't ibang basahan. Okay? And also, sanitary materials should also be used. So maintaining a high level of personal hygiene, they should actually use gloves and even aprons, and they should be wary of proper hand washing. And also storing, chilling, and heating of foods. Mas maganda is that it's properly sealed in a container para alam nila and allocated yung mga dapat lutuin and dapat initin. Okay? So, implementing effective pest control. So, this one is still a bit of a challenge when it comes to street vendors, but I hope it could be regulated in the future. And also comprehending food allergies, food poisoning, and food intolerance. So, I believe that this could be achieved through also with the help of barangay and even the government by simply informing everyone on how to properly manage and how to properly practice food safety. Because again, everything when it comes to food safety is a very interconnected process. So that's it. And here are my resources. So thank you so much for listening. So you could follow me at Project with PH or Nutrition by Beatrix, and feel free to DM me if you have any questions. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something.
We definitely did. So thank you, Miss Beatrix, for that very informative talk. In our university, marami sa amin yung regular street food consumers nga. That's why this is so relevant to us. And as much as street food is irreplaceable in our culture as Filipinos, there's a strong call for our institutions to reinforce the structures that protects the safety of consumers and at the same time guarantee the livelihood of vendors in the street food scene. Ako personally, I learned so much, and I know our audience did as well. So thank you, Miss Beatrix. Let's all give her a round of applause. Virtual applause pala, since we're in Zoom. And right now, I believe we have around 85 viewers in our Facebook Live. So warm greetings to all of our viewers. If anyone here has questions for Miss Mercado, you may type them in the comment section on Facebook or YouTube, and your questions will be raised later during the open forum.
Ayan, syempre, ang dami natin natutunan. Thank you again po kay Ma'am Beatrix. We really learned a lot. This is very relevant po, not just for us students of nutrition and food science, same din po sa ating general Filipino public. Ayan. So now that we have discussed the food safety of Philippine street foods, I'm also curious to know the nutritional value aspect behind these food items. So without further ado, allow me to introduce to you guys our last, but definitely not the least speaker, Mrs. Luz Felicidad Calianta, RND, MSN, or better known as Ma'am Luchi. So Ma'am Luchi actually holds a BS Community Nutrition and MS Nutrition degree from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and has been a certified registered nutritionist dietitian since then. She was formerly a faculty member in the Center for Culinary Arts Manila, and currently she is an assistant professor in the Department of Food Science and Nutrition, College of Home Economics, UP Diliman. Consequently, she is the chairperson of the Office of Community Extension Services in the same college. Apart from her engagements in UP, Ma'am Luchi is also a board member and founding member of the Sports Nutrition Association of the Philippines, or SNAP, a board member of the Dietary Practice Group for Sports Nutrition and Wellness under the Professional Regulations Commission, or PRC, and the Nutritionist Dietitians Association of the Philippines, or NDAP. She also is the current assistant treasurer of the Philippine Society of Nutritionists and Dietitians, and a coordinator and writer for the grade 7 to 10 MAPE series of Aviva Publishing House. Grabe, ang dami talagang achievements and engagements ng ating last but definitely not the least speaker. So without further ado, let us please give a virtual round of applause for Ma'am Luchi.
Before we welcome Ma'am, we'd also like to thank our sponsors and partners. So this webinar is brought to you by the PAFT-Alpha Association Food Technology Alpha Chapter of the University of the Philippines, Diliman, UP Statistical Society, and special thanks to UP CMC FST Konse, Geographical Society of the University of the Philippines, or UP GeogSoc, UP Future Library and Information Professionals of the Philippines, UP Haring Ibon, UP Physics Association, and UP Red Cross. So ayun, we're waiting for our speaker to arrive.
Pero ayun, at Miss Guada, alam mo, sobrang dami ko natutunan from the yung talk ni Ma'am Beatrix kanina. Personally sa'yo, ano yung pinaka-highlight since alam naman natin ang daming street food sa UP?
Yeah, yun nga, nagugulat ako when Ma'am discussed like the specific microbes or microorganisms inside. Parang napareflect ako at the time na when I had food poisoning as well. And I was thinking about like the symptoms I had, and I was like, ano kaya dito yung nakadali sa akin? At nagsuka-suka ako ng time na yun.
Yes.
Diba?
Yes, I definitely agree, no. And I think a lot of our live studio, sorry, our live audience would also agree na talagang grabe, no. Sobrang yun nga, kulang talaga yung education about this topic. And I hope that yun nga, we can move forward with this na mas maging maalam tayo sa ating mga pagkain na pinipili. Syempre, since food safety, malaking role talaga to para mapanatili din natin yung nutrition natin and also yung sa health natin na I think very much needed siya ngayon since alam niyo na may pandemic ngayon. Yes. Ayun. So, Miss Wada, ayun, for Ma'am Lucy's talk, ano yung gusto mo bang malaman siguro, or like meron ka bang mga mga gustong
Mhm.
malaman pa, since syempre nutrition,
Mhm.
kanina food science naman, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
As a nutrition major, sobrang curious talaga ako kasi what we're taught in our classes then is wala namang food na unhealthy exactly, wala namang junk food. Meron lang talagang if we eat too much of this or that, then it becomes bad for us. So parang I wanna see street food in a good light naman kasi pag tinitingnan natin yan in a nutrition like perspective, talaga, oh, street food is bad for you. It's tataas blood pressure mo, madaming taba dyan. Salty, lahat na lang talaga. So, maybe naman through the talk of Miss Calyanta, Ma'am Calyanta, we can shed like both the positive and the negative lights of street food in the nutrition perspective.
yes, I agree. Syempre, lalo na sa culture natin bilang mga
Mm.
Pilipino, mahilig talaga tayo sa adventurous tayo mga Filipino, di ba? Marami tayong mga kinakain na isaw na, for instance, kwek-kwek, ganon. Ayun. Um, okay. But ako siguro personally yung gusto, ayun, apart from the nutritive value, siguro gusto ko din makakuha ng tips like, siguro parang paano natin mabuboost yung nutrition aspect ng mga street foods. And
Totoo
hopefully,
yan.
syempre, yun nga, na-mention mo din kanina, Miss Guada, na meron, hindi naman necessarily na, yun nga, puro in a bad light. Syempre, may makukuha pa rin naman tayong nutrients from it. Pero mas gusto lang natin ma-boost lalo yun para, mas healthy tayo and ma-boost din natin yung iba't iba nating immune system and everything kasi lalo na ngayon na kailangan natin yung boost in terms of our health,
Yes.
given
Ayan.
situation ngayon.
And given na we're stuck in we're still in a pandemic, hindi rin tayo, ako personally, wala na rin akong means to buy the street food that I always bought back when I was in campus. So parang I'd wanna know how I could prepare it myself para lang masatisfy yung cravings ko. And at the same time, make it maybe fitting for my diet and also yun nga, enhance my immune response, mga ganon, all the benefits that, different macro and micronutrients can bring.
Yeah, also siguro personally, gusto ko din malaman kung paano ko ma-prepare to in my own way. Kasi syempre ako personally, namimiss ko yung mga street food sa UP,
Ba?
natin sa mga kiosk, and even yung mga nasa labas, di ba? Parang sadly, hindi naman tayo makalabas ngayon because of the circumstances right now. Pero syempre, alam mo yun, hanap at hahanapin mo talaga sila. Kaya ako gusto ko din matutunan yun. And I hope na yun nga, ganun din yung sentiments ng ating mga speakers and yung ating mga viewers ngayon. And ayun, so I think Ma'am Lucy is here. So
Finally.
yes.
Hi, ma'am.
Ayun, we are very
Welcome
excited
po.
to listen to your talk po. So without further ado, let us please give a virtual round of applause for Ma'am Lucy Calyanta.
Thank you so much. And I hope you forgive me for not showing my beautiful face because if I do, I will lose my connection.
You
Okay.
can see your face naman po through our slide, ma'am. Still very beautiful.
Okay, so I will screen share. Pwede ba akong mabigyan ng co-hosting?
Sure po, ma'am. One moment po.
Thank you. Tell me when I can. Pagkapas. Pwede na?
Your co-host na po, ma'am.
Okay, sige. Okay, so I have to open the presentation. Okay, wait, where is that?
Take your time po.
Talaga. Hi, nako ang ating mga I hope you are all well. We are might go to a stricter lockdown starting tomorrow. So I hope that you're all okay. Nasaan na ba yun?
You din po, ma'am. We hope that you're keeping safe and keeping healthy din po.
Yes, so of course, pero we had to do a little bit of panic buying kanina, but that's okay. So pan-alpha, there you go. Okay, there. O, sige. So, share screen. Do you want to continue? This will stop other screen sharing. Do you want to continue? Continue. Oh, I continued, ha? Ay, oo, kasi mawawala ako dyan. Sige. Okay. Are you... Wait.
You can
There. Can you see it?
Yes, ma'am. You can see it.
Okay. So, this afternoon, I have been tasked to talk about the nutrient content and how to make street foods more nutritious. Alam niyo, mas nahirapan ako doon sa second part. Okay? Kasi madali lang naman, di ba, sobrang dali lang naman isipin kung ano ang nutrient content ng mga pagkain. Pero ang mahirap is paano to i-improve. But let's see what we can do. Maybe we can work on this together. Okay, so convention, ayan. Ito nga, Metro Manila, dapat hindi. So, I think that your previous speaker was able to talk to you already about the, the food safety part of street food. Okay? So, nakuha ko a little bit of it kasi medyo nawawala-wala nga ako kanina. So, the term street food came to describe a wide range of ready-to-eat foods and beverages sold and sometimes prepared in public places. And the reason why it is called a street food is because notably it was prepared in streets. Okay? So, ayan, meron pang mga definition of terms that we have come across with. But more importantly, sino ang namimili? Okay, it is a low-cost meal, so it can actually benefit every social class. So meron namimili na mga mahihirap, pero meron rin naman namimili na may mga kaya. Okay? So ayun. So the availability and accessibility rather than individual income or stage of national development seems to determine street food consumption patterns. And then, kung ang tao ay namimili ng street foods dahil ito ay mura o kaya dahil ito ay napaka-convenient, dadaanan mo lang, hindi na nila masyadong tinitignan yung hygiene o kaya sanitation. Okay? So yun, kanilang sinatawag na priorities ay medyo malayo doon sa hygiene or sanitation. Okay? Siyempre, tayong lahat sa UP, kilala natin si Mang Larry, no? Kung hindi mo kilala si Mang Larry, ibig sabihin yan, wala kang karapatang tawagan kang isko o kaya iska. Kasi since 1984, kayong lahat ay umabot na ng 94, 2000. Hala, hindi pa kayo pinanganak, nandiyan na si Mang Larry. Di ba? Okay, at saka nag-ano na siya, diversify, kumbaga, meron na siyang mga areas na pinuntahan, no? Dati noon, andun lang siya sa may lumang gym, ngayon andoon na siya meron na siyang stand malapit sa fine arts at saka fine arts sa college pa yun. Tsaka alam nyo, meron na rin siya sa loob ng UP Village. Okay? So yung kay Mang Larry is just one example of how it became a great equalizer. It didn't matter if you were a faculty member or a student, you could go there. Kung ikaw ba ay janitor sa isang eskwelahan, pwede kang makipila doon kasama ang mga faculty members. So may iba't ibang categories ng street foods, no? Unang category dito, syempre alam natin to, mga walking street foods. Ibig sabihin, ambulant siya. So si Manong na nagbebenta ng taho is under that walking street foods. Naalala ninyo doon sa HE, yung atin Manong, no? I have often wondered where he is. Kasi, my husband teaches at the UP College of Human Kinetics. Meron rin sila doon Manong taho. Ang pangalan niya si Bon. Nahanap namin just last week. And he now sells inside the campus, yes, but he sells na you just order online, tapos you pick it up. He is there, meron siyang table doon, sa labas sa labas ng kolehiyo. Pero nahanap ko, nasaan na kaya si Manong na naandoon sa HE, no? Tapos ito siya, yung mga ito ang binebenta niya, yung tinapay, no? Dito, tsaka minsan ice drops, no? Tapos syempre yung nakakariton. Tapos meron din sitting vendors naman. So kung meron kang walking, meron kang sitting. Okay? Syempre, as understood, hindi na ito gumagalaw. Okay? So nandiyan, yung nagbebenta ng mga kakanin dito sa Antipolo, yung nagbebenta ng banana queue, iba't ibang klaseng tusok-tusok. Hindi ba? Ang title nga ninyo ngayon ay tusok-tusok. O iyan, iba't ibang tusok-tusok. Alam mo, sa totoo lang, tinitingnan ko ito, nakagutom. Kasi ang street foods is very appetizing. Ito meals na talaga ito, pero still considered the street food kasi binibenta siya nga sa kalye. Nasa sidewalk lang yan, di ba? Tapos yung mga fruit stands at ayan, summer na ngayon, makakahanap ka na ng halo-halo. Siguro sa mga probinsya lang kasi dito sa Metro Manila ay balapit na nga tayo mag-ECQ, MECQ, whatever. Okay. Tapos meron mga street foods na dito lang sa eskwelahan. Okay? Ayan, no, sa eskwelahan yung mga fish balls, squid balls, and the like. Tapos, kawawa naman ito si Manong, nakatulog na siya, no? Pero ito, ice cream. Are you familiar with ice crumble? No? Ito yung ice, shaved ice. Tapos linalagyan lang yan ng mga kulay-kulay at asukal. Pero very popular sa eskwelahan. Okay? Ano pa? Popcorn tuloy. Corn! No? Yun, always nakakabit siya sa gasol kasi palagi lang yan mainit. Kung dadaan ka naman dito sa Katipunan, no? Papasok ng UP, no? Doon sa kalye, along the road. So one after the other na corn, 'di ba? Okay lang 'yon. Tapos dito meron tayo dito ice cream nga. Ang tawag dito, dirty ice cream. Ako meron akong personal reason why tinawag yan na dirty ice cream. Long ago, I was very young, like I think less than 10 years old. Namimili kami ng dirty ice cream. Buhay na yun noon, no? That was like 50 years ago. So yung mamimili kami ng dirty ice cream, so kumakain na yung sister ko mas matanda sa akin. Yung naubos na niya yung ice cream, nasa dulo na siya nung ice cone, yung ice cream cone, may ipis doon sa ilalim. So kami, that is why we continued to call it dirty ice cream. Pero for us naman now, I don't understand why we need to call it dirty ice cream pa naman. Hindi naman siya now madumi. Siguro yung atin speaker, the previous to me, and naipakita na you can partake of ice cream na galing ganito na hindi naman ibig sabihin madumi. Tapos ito sa mga offices at saka construction sites, sa factory, ito sa Makati ito, no? Naglipanan 'yan. Hindi na yan maalis, no? Pero actually mga vehicles 'yan na kinonvert na nila. Ang kanyang mas sosyal na pangalan ay food trucks, no? Pero hindi yan truck, mga L300 yan na kinonvert. Okay, pero yes, food trucks, pero yun alam natin na food truck yung malalaki na pagka meron kang affair sa eskwelahan, pwede kang mag-hire ng food truck tapos po dadating sa iyo. Social yun. Ito kasi nandiyan na yan nakapila na yan sa Makati. Siyempre ngayon wala na sila siguro doon. I don't know, no? Tapos siomay, eto yung mga binebenta nila, di ba? Minsan, ang kailangan mo lang kasi, ang katapat lang naman nito is boiling water. Okay? Tapos sandwiches. Meron pang transportation centers o sino sa inyo ang mga taga-probinsya na umuuwi mayat maya, di ba? Pag tumigil ang bus sa isang place, street foods pa rin ang tawag dun. Yung lalo na yun, okay, titigil sila sa isang place para sa toilet break. Tapos, May mga stalls doon. Pero meron doon mga naglalakad, maglalako, di ba? Yan, ang kanila mga binibenta. At saka siyempre, barbecue. Tingnan mo nga ito, sinabi ko dito, variety is limited only by the vendor's imagination. Dito sa Pilipinas, walang tinatapon. Ang tinatapon lang ay ang mga feathers ng manok. Wala pa yatang nakahanap ng paraan kung paano kainin ang feathers ng manok. I hope hindi umabot doon, ano? Pero from the tip of the head, ang tawag doon palong, ha? Baka akala ninyo ulo, hindi. Meron pang higher than that, yung palong. It's a crown on top of the chicken's head. That is so good. It's so soft and parang, basta't masarap siya. Na ilagay sa stick, tusok-tusok. All the way up to the tip of the toes, di ba? Yung chicken feet. Na, sige, ano ang mga tawag noon? Dapat alam niyo yon, di ba? Ang chicken head, ang tawag doon ay helmet. Di ba? Tapos yung chicken feet, ang tawag doon Adidas. Okay, ano pa? Kung sa laman loob, ang tawag doon IUD. Tapos pagka binenta naman ninyo yung baboy, yung pig's ears, ang tawag doon Walkman. Dati noon, wala pa tayong mga earphones, earplugs, whatever. Walkman ang tawag namin doon. So ayun ang tawag hanggang ngayon. Yung dugo ng manok na pinapa-solidify, no? Para ilalagay yan sa mga, ihawin o kaya kami linalagay namin sa tinola, ang tawag doon ay Betamax, no? Pero ewan ko kung kayo, kilala pa ninyo ang Betamax. Alam ba ninyo kung ano ang Betamax? Ha? Sige, sagot kayo konti.
Ang dugo po, ma'am.
Hindi, yung Betamax.
Ay.
Diba kung ano ang Betamax? Hindi ano? Okay, so ang Betamax, pinalitan yan ng mga...
DVD.
Oo, ng mga DVD, mga CDs, ganyan. So yung Betamax, shape siya dung dugo. Kasi rectangle eh. So sabi nga nila, alam nyo, hindi na tayo makikilala. Betamax, dadating ang panahon. Kagaya ngayon, no? Hindi na ninyo alam pa ng Betamax. May bagong pangalan na ngayon, ang chicken blood. Ang tawag sa kanya ngayon ay SpongeBob. Oh, di ba? Kasi mas alam ng generation ngayon ang SpongeBob. Okay. So ayan sila, no? Lahat ang dami-daming mga pwede, pero yun yung animals. But over and above all of it, king of Philippine street foods is still the balut. Ayan. I just had balut the other day, no? And I was actually very disappointed. Why? Because napakaganda, no, ng basta't maganda siya. Pero yung binuksan ko, alam mo kung anong wala? Yung sabaw. Para sa akin, ang sabaw ang pinakamasarap. But do you know what the sabaw is? Ha? If you think about it, the sabaw is the fecal material of the chicken. Of this fetus, okay, that is developing inside the egg. Where does all of his yung kanyang mga bodily fluids go? Yun yung sabaw na kinakain ninyo. Pero hello, wala akong pakialam. Iinumin ko yun, lalagyan nyo na ng konting asin, no? Tapos iyon na masarap. And the way I eat balot, you will not want to eat with me because I eat it by opening the whole thing, putting it on a plate, and very daintily pick at it and eat it with rice. I am not the kind who will, napaka-barbaryan naman yun, no? Isi-slurp ninyo yung sabaw through the shell. No, I am sophisticated, but all my children do not like it when I eat balut. They leave the table because they consider it so kadiri daw. Ano ba yan, mama? Nakakadiri ka, nakitang-kita lahat. Bakit ayaw makita? You should see what you're eating. Diba? Okay, anyway, so that's balut. Now, let us go to how much, so this time, it is no longer nutrition, no? Pero how much nga of the food budget goes to street foods? look at this. I consider fast food meals to be street foods kasi kasama yun doon. Tingnan nyo kung gaano kataas yan. Pero ang data nito is only up to the year 2000, no? Pero I'm sure na halos pareho pa din yan. Ang sit down, mahal ang sit down. Hello, mahal na mahal ang sit down. Okay? Look at this, kamura-mura lang yan, no? Busog ka na. When the lockdown had not happened, kami, yung mga faculty members nyo, ako, si Ma'am Lori, si Ma'am Rain, no? Uutusan na namin yan, yung isa sa amin. O sige, bibili ako ng isa. Anong order niyo? Anong order niyo? Pupunta lang kami doon sa Manang, doon sa baba, malapit sa UP Elementary. Tapos bibili na kami. No? Wala kaming... So, hello. Just because we're nutritionists doesn't mean that we do not enjoy street foods. Okay. Ayun. So, meron akong mga ibang mga research na i-share dito, no? Pero the gist of this whole thing is that ang FAH is food away from home, okay? And ito pinapakita no, percent of households with food away from home. Okay? Ito pala, sorry, FAH, food at home. So tingnan niyo ang taas, di ba? Ito hanggang 2012. Okay? Ang dami sa kanila, 90%, no? Meron silang budget for food away from home. Okay. Dito na tayo. Nutritional benefits of street foods. Ang haba ng introduction ko, no? Pero, you know, mabilis lang to. Kasi it's almost all the same. Okay. Street foods vary in type so much, it is impossible to draw any general conclusions. Pero ang nakita ni T noong 1989 is that the nutrient content of snack types were highly variable and depended mainly on the composition and balance of ingredients. And ang nakita pa, ang nakita further is that fish, of course, and prawn products had a higher retinol content. Okay? And then this is, for me, strange, pero an evaluation of snacks. Maybe because snacks is not the high protein kind. It showed that they had a low iron and energy content. Another study by Pasrica showed that some had moderate iron content, but it also had a high phytate content, which could actually inhibit iron absorption. Okay. What else? Okay, so we will now go into each one, no? Okay. Banana Q. Siyempre, alam lahat natin kung ano ang ingredients niya. Banana, nasa ba? Brown sugar, at saka cooking oil. So it is understandable that bulk of the nutrients is fat. 44.78%, no? This is macronutrients lang. Carbohydrates comes from the fruit and the protein very, very minimal. Total calories is 515. Mataas yan, ha? Okay. Mataas-taas ng konti ang proteins. Kasi nga, it is a tofu product which is protein pa din. Pero meron siyang brown sugar. So, ang carbohydrates, even if you, okay. So, ang carbohydrates nito is mostly sugar. And it is this one, the arnibal. No? That's why you buy taho, many people will go easy on the sugar, please. As if, no? 50% lang. I think that some of you also do that with juices. No? You say, how many percent? Okay. Kwek-kwek. Okay? Ito ang kanyang mga ingredients. So, copyhin niyo ito. Pwede na kayong gumawa sarili ninyong kwek-kwek. Kasi quail eggs lang naman yan eh. Pero tingnan niyo ito, ang protein, ang baba. 2.28% lang of the calories come from protein. Fat is 67%. Bakit? Kasi this is fried, deep fried yan. Carbohydrates is 11.5%. Where does that all come from? From the breading, the cornstarch and the flour. Binabalot ngayon yan. Fish balls, no? That's the favorite. Mataas din sa fat kasi ito ay sorbetes, okay? Since it is milk, okay, therefore proteins is medyo mataas, pero mataas din ang carbohydrates and this is sugar because of the ingredients. What else do we have? Adobong mani, okay? Fat is very high. Kasi this is fried. That's why you want to look for mani that is baked. Siyempre, kung bibili kayo sa street foods, wala kayong mahahanap na baked. Makakahanap lang kayo ng roasted mani sa mga nagbebenta sa tabi-tabi. Medyo hindi street foods pero nakapack na siya. Pork barbecue, of course, mataas ang protein, no? So, okay lang yan. Fat, mataas because of the, di ba, ayaw ko kung napapansin niyo, pero pagka nagtutusok-tusok ng barbecue, ng pork para sa barbecue, ang nasa dulo, ang taba. So siguro, pag hindi ninyo kakainin yon, hindi kayo hindi ganyan kataas ang fat. But still, depende sa cut ng ginamit, no? That is going to have a say, have effect. Okay. Oh, ayan ang Betamax. Diba? Sabi ko nga hindi na tawag Betamax, kundi ano ang tawag sa kanya? Si SpongeBob. Okay. So we have pork blood, salt, black pepper, water, etc., etc. Okay. Time. What else? Do I still have some more? Okay. Balut na nga yan. So, ang balut, syempre mataas ang protein niya. Syempre, mababa lang ang carbohydrates niya kasi wala naman dinalagay dyan. It is as is. Ang fat naman niya is galing dito sa itlog. So, this is the ranking based on total calorie count per serving. You have the Betamax as the highest. Total calorie per serving yan. And the sorbetes is Betamax has the least calories and sorbetes has the highest. Okay. Hanapin ninyo kung ano ang favorite nyo dito at tignan ninyo kung kayo ba ay nasa mataas. No? Ang favorite ko actually dito is fishball. Yung pork barbecue syempre pero hindi. Tsaka ang taho. 470. Pinaka-ayok ko actually is kwek-kwek. I don't know. I have never found it. And Betamax because I only use it for tinola. Okay. For other nutrients, yes, you can actually have some foods that are high in street foods that are high in iron and vitamin A. But conversely naman, very low ang street foods sa calcium at saka sa thiamine or B1. Okay. Eto naman, street foods can cause the development of chronic non-communicable diseases and ito siya, cardiovascular diseases, cancers, no? Ano pa? Chronic obstructive COPD, pulmonary diseases, and diabetes mellitus. Bakit? Because of its high carbohydrate and fat intake, content, okay? But guys, this is if you eat it on a daily basis, no? If it is eaten in moderation, it should not be a problem. And if it is eaten, one in moderation and two in the context of a healthy, well-balanced meal, as part of that, then it should not make any effect. So, eto na. How do you improve? And I'm almost done, no? Kasi 7 minutes lang natitira sa akin. How can you improve the nutritional quality of street foods? Unang-una, ano ba ang lumabas sa research? Vendors rarely sold fruits. So, eto, the use of fruits and vegetables is low. What do I see? I see for every once in a while, no, but fairly regularly I see, pero siguro mangilan-ngilan lang sila. May mga street food vendors na binebenta nila is watermelon, pineapple. Do you see them? No? Meron eh. Watermelon, pineapple. Yun, dalawa na yon. Tapos, syempre, may iisipin ninyo yung mga sitting street foods. Syempre, yung mga fruits, ganun. No? Mataas yon. Pero the use of, the sale of fruits and vegetables is very, very low. This is the reason why. Because school children do not seem to purchase fruits or vegetables. Not only that, hindi na nga gusto ng mga bata ang vegetables, mataas pa ang presyo ng vegetables at saka mahirap siya i-prepare. Tapos to keep it, naririnig niyo ako, no? Naririnig niyo ako?
Yes po.
Oh, sige, okay. Kasi nag-ano ko. Okay. So, an analysis of some popular meals in the Philippines found that the meat-based dishes scored highest in terms of total energy and protein content, and vegetables dishes scored higher for iron, vitamins A and C, but the bioavailability of iron is uncertain. Okay. So, if you want to improve the street foods, you have to give them capital. Kasi the reason why hindi nila maitaas ang nutritional quality ng street foods because they do not have the needed capital to prepare such kinds of fruits. Okay? And again, the fact nga that since school children do not seem to like it, no, they are not going to get that much money. So the low capital seems to be the most immediate factor that prevented vendors from improving the nutritional quality of the foods they sell. Okay, so what are the pros of eating street foods? It is convenient, it is affordable, it is available and accessible. Meron siyang culinary authenticity kasi no one street food vendor will prepare. Ako, no, I would, you know what I would do? I would go to my favorite street food vendor, the one who sold, like I said, my favorite was fish balls. I will buy the fish balls from her na hindi pa luto, pero babayaran ko yung sauce niya. Kasi hindi ko makopya-kopya yung sauce niya. Ayokong isipin ko anong linalagay niya doon, pero ang sarap-sarap ng sauce niya. And of course, there is additional job opportunities. Okay? Pero yung cons niya is decreased food quality. Tapos kanina na pag-usapan ninyo yung lesson, food safety and food-borne illness. Okay? Actually, okay, if you think about it, based on nutritional content, no, which is for, when I say poll statistics, tinanong, sa tingin ninyo, ano ang pinaka sustansya? Ito naman, talagang based on actual count. Tingnan ninyo, ang okay, dito sa Betamax, walang nagsabi dito. Yung balot, wala rin nagsabi dito. Pero yung kwek-kwek at saka adobong mani, meron. Calamares, walang nagsabi. Okay? So, walang connect yung kaalaman ng tao at saka kung ano ang lumalabas sa mga researches. Okay? So, final words ko ito, no? Kung iisipin niyo, wala naman sinabi si ma'am kung paano natin gagawin mas nutritious yung street foods, no? Kasi ang hirap niyang gawing mas nutritious. Short of saying, wag mo iprito. Hello, hindi na siya yung street food. Wala kang bibili doon. Okay? Para sa akin, if you want to make street foods more nutritious, you need to educate those who are going to purchase. Educate them about when they should serve street foods. Because you can. No, you can serve street foods, pero wag araw-arawin. Teach them about which ones are the highest in terms of protein, and then to stay away from those that are of low nutrient density na foods. Okay? Alang naman sasabihin natin, siguro ang pwede kong gawin, pwede ko na lang i-suggest is, kung gagawa kayo ng sauce, hanap kayo ng sauce na meron kayong lalagay ng mga grated squash o kaya grated carrots, baka pwedeng ganon. But still, it will require a lot of education. So I will end here on the final words. There is a critical need for more precise and quantitative information on the nutrient content of street foods. Kaya ninyo yan gawin. Kayong mga nutrition students, di ba? You can do this so that you will assess their nutritional quality at saka kung paano sila mag-contribute to the overall energy and nutrient intake of different population groups. Therefore, if you are able to do that, you can help identify particular foods or ingredients na in terms of composition and consumption may offer a potential as vehicles for fortification. Iyan na yun ngayon. Itong fortification ay ang sagot natin sa kung paano natin gagawin mas sustansya ang pagkain. And there, no, siguro ang akala ninyo ay si ma'am bibigyan niya tayo ng mga suggestions. Hindi, kasi hirap. Very, how would you call it? It is very dependent, no? Nakalagay nga doon, di ba? Culinary, it is very unique, no, to the person who is doing it. Okay, so I will stop share here and there. I hope that you got something.
Definitely, ma'am. Thank you so much po. That was such an in-depth discussion of the nutrition content of our favorite street foods. They're surely sources of our macro and micronutrients, but what we learned talaga from ma'am is that these should be consumed in moderation pa rin. And as always, education and support of both the vendors and consumers will always be so important. And there's so much that we can do in the nutrition field to help this industry move forward.
Yes, I agree.
So let's give ma'am a warm round of virtual applause for that very beautiful talk pa.
Beautiful?
Opo, ma'am. Grabe, we learned so much.
Okay.
Opo.
I'm glad. Okay. So, baka meron kayong tanong? Kung meron kayong tanong, I'm still here.
Sige po, ma'am. We'll relay them a bit later on.
Okay.
So, meron akong tanong for our audience naman who are watching via Facebook or YouTube Live. So, guys, how do you think we can prepare these street foods nga while keeping an eye on their nutritive aspect? So, hanging question. So, don't worry because PAFT-Alpha's got you covered. So, our next segment of the program will feature a cooking demonstration on how these street foods can be recreated at home by using alternative ingredients while still being delicious and nutritious. So we'll flash a video. You guys enjoy.
Sa video na ito, tayo ay gagawa ng sardine balls at sarsa bilang mas masustansyong bersyon ng commercial fish balls na karaniwang ginagamitan ng isdang pollock o cuttlefish. Ang una nating gagawin ay paghaluin ng isda ng sardinas, karot, sibuyas, at bawang sa isang mangkok. Sunod naman ay ilagay na natin ang harina at itlog. Idagdag din natin ang asin at paminta tapos hahaluin natin ang mga ito ng mabuti. Bubuo na tayo ng mga maliliit na bilog at pagkatapos ay papagulungin sila sa binating itlog at harina. Pansamantala muna nating isantabi ang mga ito. Ngayon ay magpapainit tayo ng mantika sa isang kawali. Handa na tayo magprito ng mga sardine balls. Kapag luto na, patuluin muna natin ang sobrang mantika at itabi. Para naman sa sarsa, maghalo tayo ng suka, toyo, sukal, at ang tomato sauce mula sa sarsa ng sardinas. Kung sakaling hindi gawa sa tomato sauce ang sarsa, pwedeng gamitin pamalit ang ketchup. Pakuluin na natin. Ang cornstarch na unang tinunaw sa kaunting tubig ay ibubuhos ng dahan-dahan sa kumukulong sarsa habang hinahalo. Hayaan muna nating lumapot. At ayan na! Habang mainit pa ay ihain mo na ang masarap at masustansyang sardine balls na may nilalaman ng mga sumusunod. Hayaan mo na rin ang 5 mo pang kabarkada o kapamilya na kumain para mas masaya. O siya, kain na!
Ayun.
Masarap naman.
So, I saw the ending. Yeah, sa padayon ending yun eh.
Opo, ma'am. That's your recipe po. We got it there.
No, it's let me correct you. It is our recipe because PAFT-Alpha helped a lot in the formulation of all of these recipes. So, sino ang nag-demo?
Yes
Si
po, ma'am.
Jamie po, ma'am. Si Jamie. Yung
Talaga?
luto.
Very
Jamie.
good.
Shout
Alam
Jamie
nyo,
Alaba.
tuloy, I am already thinking kasi I actually suggested to Dr. Bayaga, what else can we do para sa padayon? No? I mean, we stopped eh.
Mhm.
Gawa tayo ng maraming videos. 'Di ba? Tapos is-share natin kasi malayo na inabot ng padayon sa mga provinces, hinihingi nila. Kaya nakakataba ng puso, no? Please nakakatulong tayo maski sa gitna ng pandemya. Congratulations si Jamie, congratulations. Very very good skills. Yes. Sino ang nag-annotate?
Ang nag-edit po ay si Pancho
Oh,
and Raven.
good job. Sino ang Sino
Mga third year po.
Sino nagsalita? Sino nagsalita?
Raven.
Oh, very nice voice.
Si Mr. Club, yes. Ayun. So, talagang nagutom tayong lahat sa sardine balls na yun. They really sure look delicious and nutritious as well. And the recipe was taken from, or was made from, were made by Parayan MD, and was made by one of our very own speakers today, Ma'am Lucy Calianta. We would also like to thank our fellow PAFT-Alpha members who worked on the video, our videographer and cook, Miss Jamie Alava, our Mr. Raven Clamor for the voiceover, and Mr. Pancho Villamoran for editing the video. For those who want to recreate the recipe at their homes, I'm sure gustong-gusto natin din gawin, the video will be uploaded to PAFT-Alpha's YouTube channel for your reference. So like, subscribe, and hit the bell button for more recipes. So as of ayun, moreover, as of now, we have around 80 FB viewers on our Facebook Live. Thank you very much for joining us today. Before we move on to the next part of our forum, we would like to thank again PAFT-Alpha for organizing this event, which was also brought to you by the Philippine Association of Food Technology Alpha Chapter, the University of the Philippines Diliman, UP Statistical Society, and special thanks to the CMC FST Konse, Geographic Society of the University of the Philippines, or UP GeogSoc, the UP Future Library and Information Professionals of the Philippines, UP Haring Ibon, UP Physics Association, and the UP Red Cross Youth. At this point, we will be opening the floor for your questions to our speakers. You may still send in your questions in the comment section on our live stream. Again, kindly indicate to whom you're addressing the question. We will try to accommodate as many questions as we can given the time. A reminder also to everyone to please tune until the end of the webinar for the evaluation form.
So we've received questions already. both in the forums and also in the comment section of our live streams. Our very first question is for Miss Beatrix. Hi, Miss Beatrix. Yung
Hi.
question po is, paano po natin ma-reconcile ang pangangailangan ng malinis na pagkain sa kalsada in relation to kalagayang economic ng mga vendors natin? Mahal po ba ang maging malinis at ano po ang magagawa ng mga consumer, policymakers, or pamahalaan natin?
Alright. So, yeah, very comprehensive yung question actually. Paano po natin ma-reconcile ang pangailangan ng malinis na pagkain? So, again, as I mentioned earlier, this is very much interconnected. So, hindi tayo pwedeng mag-rely lang sa mga vendors and hindi lang tayo pwedeng mag-rely lang sa mga buyers. Again, it actually starts with a government approach, barangay approach, because that's where they could fully address and fully help establish yung mga street food vendors. Because ang normal na nangyayari is that pinapaalis sila, but then babalik ulit, right? So, yung iba naman, although may permits, but then there is lack of proper regulation and education when it comes to this aspect. Because halimbawa, let's say they can get a business permit, but sanitary permit is very easy to get without even checking the venue. Ayan, nangyayari yan. So, doon pa lang, kailangan ng i-correct, right? So, again, it's a very holistic approach, a difficult one, challenging one. It would take years, actually, to really establish a safe food environment for the street vendors that is helping them be educated and also educate din yung mga bumibili. Okay, so it's a holistic approach. Difficult at first, yes, expensive. Pag natuto silang ma-educate, hindi. So una, it's kind of costly, but we also have to allocate na mas costly po kapag mas maraming nadidiscard dahil napapanis, mas costly lalo pag na-hospital dahil, ayun nga, na-mishandle yung food, tapos ikaw pa yung sisisihin. So, ayun, we also have to look into that. So again, it's a holistic approach for the government, the vendor, and even us buyers, us commoners. Ayan, so years it will take, but kaya, I hope.
I believe kaya din as well. So may follow-up question lang po in relation to your answer, ma'am. So a common limiting factor for maximum food safety is that street vendors lack containers nga po for storing uncooked food and for disposing their waste and all, and also cleaning equipment. So what could be a probable solution for this type of situation?
All right. So thank you again for that question. So babalik tayo sa nutrition education. Ayan, very important ang education. And hindi siya dapat i-neglect because doon natin talaga malalaman on how to really safely proper handle the food. Ayan. So of course, yung ibang mga companies malaki kayang gawin 'yon simply because they are well educated. They are properly educated. Ayan. So samantala, so going back naman sa mga street food vendors, kailangan din properly educated sila. I don't think that there is a lack of container kasi marami akong nakikita na street vendors na ang dami nilang Tupperwares. However, they are very resourceful na yung mga containers nila pinagsasama sa parang despite na maraming containers, sama-sama din yung mga hindi dapat nandoon. So halo-halo, nagkakahalo-halo na rin. So if it's only properly allocated, used, unused, ayan. So mas safe kumbaga yung magiging outcome when it comes to this. But there is in my own perspective, I think there is no lack of container kasi doon maraming containers ang mga street food vendors. Marami silang Tupperwares. I'm very sure of it. Ayun.
All right. Thank you so much for answering that so thoroughly, Ms. Beatrix. So, yung next question po natin ay para kay Ma'am Calianta naman. Hi, Ma'am. So, ang question po is, since ang nutritional value po, kahit anong pagkain ay naaapektuhan sa process ng preparation at cooking, alin po sa mga common street foods yung talaga po na sobrang liit or wala ng benefit sa atin upon consumption? May foods po ba na talagang walang dangerous na Na talagang dangerous.
Na talagang dangerous.
Dahil sa way ng preparation at luto.
Meron kasi no? Kaso, kailangan mo talagang lutuin. Because you have to, no? You have to, in the first place, to destroy the microorganisms, you have to cook it, no? And to make it more palatable, you have to cook it. So yes, it will affect the nutritional value, but some of that effect is actually positive. Kasi nadadagdagan siya ng energy, di ba? But paano siya yung talagang dangerous sa health? Wala naman tayo kasi, I hate to say it na, don't eat that, no? No. All foods you can eat basta in moderation. Okay? So, hindi tayong Tapos, walang pagkain na walang benefit sa atin. Okay? Maski tayo, let's say, iinom ka ng highly sugary foods, di ba? Ayun yung pinaka sinasabi natin na hindi dapat. Pero actually, meron siyang energy. Quick energy yun. Okay? Pero nasa sa inyo na kung ano ang inyong pipiliin. Ito ba or ito? Kasi ito asukal lang, ito hindi. So, nasa sa inyo na rin. Now, may foods po ba na talagang dangerous na sa health dahil sa way ng preparation at luto? Yung mga improperly prepared. It is not the food, it is the way it is prepared. Okay? So you get an egg, for example. An egg is very nutritious, but you cook it, you overcook it until, di ba, nag-color green na yun, that becomes dangerous because that is carcinogenic kapag nag-green na yung kayang egg yolk. So, it is not the food itself, it is the way it is prepared. It has to be properly prepared. If it is improperly prepared, then that is when it becomes dangerous. You take a potato. A potato is very healthy, but you fry it in deep hot oil, then of course, okay, dangerous sa health natin because of the amount of oil that you consume. It's also dangerous because of the temperature that the oil reaches and therefore may change in the DNA of the oil. That's where you can get some trans fats, ganyan-ganyan. So, ang daming kailangan isipin. Okay? So, yun ang, I hope nasagot ko na.
Yes po.
Yes, ma'am, definitely po. We have another question po for Miss Beatrix. Does TUSOK-TUSOK really cause hepatitis B, especially for those who allow more than one dips to the so-called sausawan?
Alright, so for hepatitis B, no, it doesn't, because hepatitis B is caused through blood or bodily fluids transfer, kumbaga semen, sexual, or kung di kaya may mga hiwa tapos natuluan, kumbaga ng someone with Hepa B. Doon ka pwedeng magka-hepatitis B. But for sausawan, hepatitis A, ayan, mas possible na magkaroon ka ng Hepa A rather than Hepa B. Yan, because Hepa A is more, ang transfer niya is via saliva and via food rather than, ayun nga, Hepa B. So, short answer is no.
Okay, ma'am.
Can I just add a little something to that one?
Yes,
Sure, ma'am.
go ma'am.
Because I am a senior citizen, matagal na ako na nasa UP. We used to call the areas in UP, in area na nagbebenta ng pagkain, we used to call that Hepa Heaven. Because ang daming cases ng hepatitis doon. Pero of course, we never said that it was because of the food. Pero parang, yeah. Siguro yun na yun.
May ganun pala, ma'am. We didn't know that kami.
Hepa Heaven.
May question po kami for you, Ma'am Calyanta. So, how frequent should street food consumption be before it is considered unhealthy?
No, it's not just the frequency, but the amount every time you eat it. Because I'm going to say once a week, let us say, no? Pero dun sa once a week mo, hello, inubos mo yun nasa cart, no? So, in moderation, you can eat anything in moderation. You can actually eat it if you want every day, no? Pero siyempre, siguro 3 times a week will be enough. At saka, remember, when you talk of street foods, I don't know, siguro ang tingin lang ninyo sa street foods, itong tinutusok-tusok. Remember that the term street foods refers to anything that is sold along the streets, no? So if you eat corn on the cob more than 3 times a week, that's healthy. If you eat fruits, it's healthy, di ba? So it is not just the frequency, but the kind of street food that you are going to partake of, and ayun na nga, the amount. Always remember, moderation pa din. Okay,
Yes.
and always remember that it is as a part of a healthy diet. It is not the entire diet, it is just a part of, and do not forget that being healthy, kasi sinabi mo unhealthy being healthy is a not just food, but exercise, no? So, holistic pa rin ang pagtingin. Maski gasgas na ang term na holistic pa rin ang pagtingin natin sa health. Okay?
Yes po.
Yes, ma'am. Definitely po. Ayun. We have another question po for Ma'am Beatrix. The question is it still safe to eat the condiments of street food even if it is takeout? I noticed that the vendors used to use the stock condiments, those that are in takeout containers, prepackaged condiments for takeout.
Okay, so thank you. By prepackaged,
Okay.
ito ba yung nasa gravies or ito ba yung nasa parang tawag doon, naka-plastic sealed siya?
I think what they're referring po, yung nga yung naka-plastic na.
Yes, ma'am. Ka-plastic.
Okay, so
Yung nakatali
sealed siya.
po.
Okay, gets. Alright, so to answer that, I honestly don't know. So, kasi ano siya, it will always depend on the source. So, it's really best kung alam nyo or kung kilala nyo, matagal nyo nang alam kung paano sila nag-prepare. Because, halimbawa, hindi porket naka-plastic siya and separated, safe na. Ang tanong, saan to nakuha? Or ito bang dip na to? Ito bang sauce na to? Ang kinuhanan ba niya, yung container na maraming nagsawsaw din na iba. So, we can really never tell that, but it's really best to know yung source nyo or to really really know kung sino yung nagbebenta. Because the more you know, the more you are assured kung safe ba ito or hindi. But to be honest, halimbawa, if ako personally, I would just get the condiment sa bahay namin, gagawa na lang ng sarili kong condiment if I am unsure kung safe ba ito. Ayan, but if I'm assured naman, so well, why not, diba? Why not? But if I'm unsure, ayan, ako na lang sa bahay. Ayan, mahirap na eh. Ayan,
Thank you po for that tip, Miss Beatrix.
Yes. Ayun. We have a question po for Ma'am Lucci. The question is, are street foods, particularly those that are deep fried, unhealthy? If ever, how can we boost the nutrition value of such food items with minimal expenditure?
Okay. Yes, deep fried. That's what I have been saying since we started na talagang deep fried kasi siya, no? Pero sabi, yung particularly those that are deep fried, naka-parenthesis. So ibig sabihin nun, in general street foods, again, I go back to anong klaseng street foods pa ang pinag-uusapan. So if it is those that are deep fried, yes, it is quite unhealthy in the sense na ang taas ng fat content niya. But with regards to the other ingredients, okay lang naman siya, no? Okay, tapos, if ever, how can we boost the nutritional? Oh, well, yung pinakita ninyo na, video, that's a very good way. Yun, being creative with the way you use ingredients. Okay, little things, like the amount of salt that you put inside. Okay, meron din yan epekto, no? So, maybe go easy on the salt. That's one way. Okay, if ever you have to, isa pa, ito, I am sure that Ma'am Beatrix is going to agree with me, yun, paggamit niyo ng mantika, kasi nga, deep fried siya eh. Okay, you have to know when to throw away oil. and when to, stop using it na. Because baka paulit-ulit ninyong ginagamit, oh my goodness, that's even worse. Okay, so ganun lang. How to boost the nutritional value? Pwede ninyong, yung fish balls, it will start with the manufacturers of fish balls because these street food vendors simply get their supply of fish balls and squid balls and the like from Chinatown and Divisoria where they are manufactured. So you, by themselves, the street food vendors really cannot do much because that's it. Gawa na ng mga manufacturers. Puntahan ninyo as deep as you can, no? Yung mga manufacturers, tapos sila ang dapat make it more healthy. Tapos kanina doon sa video, yung ginagawa niya na sauce, no? Maganda yun kasi ginamit niya na sauce yun mismong sangkap nung sardinas, di ba? So, like I said earlier, doon ka na lang sa sauce bumawi kapag doon sa mga deep fried foods. Kasi that one, yes, you can make a little tweak here and there to make it more nutritious. Okay?
In relation nga sa sinabi ni Ma'am Calianta, yung next question for Ma'am Beatrix nga. So, what if the oil hasn't been changed for 2 to 3 days or so? How does it affect the overall quality of our street foods?
Ang tagal ng 2 to 3 days. Ayun. And honestly, nutrition aspect, it's a no-no siya. Why? Because we know na kapag nireheat ang oil, it already becomes carcinogenic. So, because it forms a toxin, so ang nangyayari, yung toxin na yon from reheating and reusing oil, it's not just cancerous, it's also inflammatory. And more than that, it also causes Alzheimer's disease. Ayan, so marami siyang factors, even heart disease, 'di ba? So ideally, the best talaga is to use it once. Ayan. Kaso nga lang, we all know naman that it's highly impossible, lalo na sa mga street foods. Ideally, if it's deep fryer, 3 times maximum. So after nung first luto, tapos hagod, tapos second luto, hagod, tapos third luto, hagod, okay na yon, stop na doon. But if beyond that, it's really not advisable because more than the content, more than the carcinogens and the toxins it formed, malalasahan nyo talaga na bumababa yung quality. Parang, bakit lasang sunog na parang bakit lasang itim na oil na yung kinakain natin? Kasi nalalasahan at nalalasahan siya. So it has a flavor value, but more than that, the nutrition content definitely is affected. Okay, so kahit yung, let's say, fishball, let's say yung ginawa natin kanina na sardines, fishball, healthy siya, right? But the question is, what if yun yung dinistribute natin sa street vendors, pero ginagawa naman nila, paulit-ulit nilang ginagamit yung oils, wala rin, bumababa rin yung quality. So, yes, make sure that the supplies and yun nga, yung mga food sources itself is good, but also be aware of yung oil na ginagamit because bumababa din ang nutritional quality overall kapag ilang beses na ginamit yung oils. It's not just unhealthy, but highlight the term toxic. Okay, so toxin siya na nilalagay nyo sa katawan nyo. Yan, so thank you.
Ako ang may question para kay Ma'am Beatrix.
Yes po.
What if they do what many people do, and I talk here about people who actually sell fried foods, no? They strain it, no, after each use, and then they discard whatever is left on the strainer, and then they put it in containers, and then what they do is before they use it, they get all the clear oil lang, and once they reach that stage na medyo nangingitim na, tatapon na nila. Pwede ba yun?
All right. So thank you. So actually, thank you for that question, ma'am. Yung iba, yes, ginagawa yun, ini-strain nila. But it's really not suggested that to the point na nangingitim na yung oil because overall affected yung quality ng oil eh. Kahit ang maganda kasi pag ini-strain siya, 3 times maximum. Ayun, 3 times maximum after straining. Otherwise, it will eventually really become a toxin sa katawan. Ayun po.
I think nalalaman naman ng mga tao na
maitim na siya. Kasi
Yes.
hindi lang siya maitim, nagbabubbles na siya.
Yes, yes.
Di ba nagbabubble-bubble na siya? Tapos, let's make it clear ha, 3 times, hindi 3 days.
Yes.
kasi
Three
kasi
days.
baka 3 days ang isipin nila eh. Okay, so 3 times lang daw ha. So ang gagawin baka nila is wow, pero tama ka Beatrix kasi magastos ang mantika.
Very.
Oo, it is actually siguro the highest costing of all their ingredients. That's why they need to isa pa pala na ginagawa nila is they use the used oil and then they mix it with new oil para lang tumagal pa daw. Ganon. Anyway, it's a really very difficult thing to
And going back up po
Yes,
sa answer
sure.
kanina
Sige po.
ni Ma'am Beatrix both ni Ma'am Beatrix and ni Ma'am Lucy, education nga is both important sa consumers and sa vendors. So, I think with education, marami tayong makakover sa lahat ng questions na tinanong ng audience natin. No?
Yes, Miss Guada, I couldn't agree more. And with that po, we would like to thank our speakers, Ma'am Beatrix and Ma'am Lucci, for entertaining the questions of our audience. Your valuable insights merit a certificate with a token to follow as expressions of our deepest gratitude for both of you. So we would like to call on Ms. Trisha Ballesteros, the Vice President of Records and Communications, to present the certificates of appreciation. Okay. May we call on Miss okay, I will read the citation in behalf of Miss Trisha. Philippine Association of Nutrition Alpha Chapter presents the Certificate of Appreciation to Ms. Beatrix Mercado, RND MSFS, for sharing her valuable knowledge in the background of Philippine street foods, its industry, and its safety during the webinar TUSOK-TUSOK, poking around the nutrition of Philippine street foods. Given this 27th day of March 2021, signed Ms. Laika Francesca Bitasea, Project Head, Ms. Maria Crisia R. Ballesteros, Vice President for Records and Communications, Mr. Glenn Paulo B. Morales, PAN-Alpha President, and Ms. Kimberly Palomo, R&D PAN-Alpha Faculty Advisor. With the same citation, we would like to present the Certificate of Appreciation to Ma'am Luz Felicidad Calianta, R&D MSN, for sharing her valuable knowledge in the nutrition aspect of Philippine street foods. Given this 27th day of March 2021, signed Ms. Laika Tesea, Project Head, Ms. Maria Crisia Ballesteros, VP for Records and Communication, Mr. Glenn Paulo Morales, PAN-Alpha President, and Ma'am Kimberly Palomo, RND, PAN-Alpha Faculty Advisor.
Ayan,
Ayun.
thank you, Isaiah, for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you also to our very, very intelligent host. Speakers, grabe.
Yes, Ms.
Tuloy.
Guada. Yes.
So, since we're nearing the end of our webinar, I hope can we all do a short photo op lang with our speakers to commemorate this special day.
Wait,
Yes.
I think I'm very dark. Kasi I am, wait. Let me face
Sure
the-
po, ma'am. The pictures will, let us keep note that the pictures taken will be only used for documentation purposes and will be posted on our official social media accounts.
Okay. Sige.
Yes po. Okay po. Who will be taking the photo?
Ako na lang, sige.
Okay, sige, Miss Guada, go.
All right, everyone. Best smiles in 3, 2, 1. Ayan. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. To formally close this program, may we call on Mr. Glenn Paulo Morales, PAN-Alpha President, for his closing remarks.
Ayan. So, good afternoon, everyone. Malinaw ba ako?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Okay, so again, good afternoon everyone, and sana ay nabusog tayong lahat ng kaalaman na ibinahagi sa atin ng ating mga speakers ngayong hapong ito. So gusto po namin muling pasalamatan sila Miss Beatrix, Ma'am, thank you very much po. At syempre, Ma'am Luchi, super miss na namin kayo, Ma'am. We miss you so much. Thank you so much po for accepting our invitation dito sa ating webinar na to, and for enlightening us about food safety and nutrition pagdating sa ating street foods. So, para rin po pala sa kaalaman ng lahat, ang ating webinar na ito ay ang culminating activity ng PAN Month 2021. So, we have 3 events. So, una po ay ang Paligsaan, celebrating food, culture, knowledge, and tradition, na ginawa po natin last week. So, dito natin ginawa para ito sa ating mga members to showcase ang kanilang mga household recipes at ipakita ito sa buong mundo ng Facebook. At syempre, ito rin yung nagsilbing bonding moments ng ating mga members sa pamamagitan ng isang napakamadugong quiz bee, di ba? So, napakamadugo talaga ang quiz bee tungkol sa local and international cuisine natin. So sa Team Trinola, ayan, sino-sino nga sila? Sila Vesa, Antea at si Frances. Congratulations again. At yan, so second na event naman po natin ay ang Abot Kamay, Kalusugan ng Kababaihan, Pangalagaan. So this is in partnership with Neurology Beyond Borders. Dito po tayo ay mamamahagi ng posters regarding maternal nutrition, PCOS, COVID, and migraine sa selected LGU beneficiaries natin sa Luzon, Visayas, at sa Mindanao. So kasama rin po nito ang ilang mga anthropometric measurement tools and kits sa tulong po ng National Nutrition Council. Pero po dahil nga po mas humigpit pa po yung ating mga IATF protocols, ay may papahamahagi pa po natin ito sa mga susunod pang linggo. So ayan po yung dalawa po natin mga ginawang events for PAN Month. So congratulations PAFT-Alpha, and thank you again sa buong ad hoc team na para sa pag-organize ng napaka-stellar talaga na webinar na ito. Grabe talaga yung efforts, yung pag-iisip, yung creativity, di ba? Yung creativity talaga ng lahat. So hindi mangyayari ito without, of course, the amazing leadership of Laika. Congratulations, Laika, our project head, together with our officers in charge, Krisha, Janica, and Ella. At syempre, ang ating buong team, ayan, ang napakasuki nating technical team, kasama si Camille. Hello, Camille. Thank you so much. Ang ating lodge head, team head, Louie, hello. Thank you so much. Ang ating recom officer, thank you so much, Vesa. Sino pa ba? Si Jem, ang ating ex-step. Thank you so much. Thank you so much sa paghahanap ng ating napaka-powerful na mga speakers, Jem. And then, yan, sobrang ganda sobrang ganda at stellar natin mga pobs. Thank you so much, CJ. Ayan, ang ating program, syempre, thank you so much, Kenneth, at ang napaka-waging-wagi nating mga host. Grabe, saludo, Isaiah and Guada, maraming salamat. So thank you very much also sa napakatinding support ng ating advisor, Ma'am Kim, sa ating DFSN Chair, Dr. Luna, sa ating SRO, Ma'am PJ, and sa ating Dean, Dr. Shirley, sa support. So again, thank you so much, lalo sa lahat ng nanonood sa atin sa buong mundo, sa Facebook Live at sa YouTube Live. Thank you very much po. So happy PAN Month, everyone.
Yes, magandang talaga ending sa ating pan month. Thank you very much, Mr. Morales. Once again, thank you to our speakers, Ma'am Beatrix and Ma'am Luchi, and to our attendees for taking the time to be with us today. We would also like to thank Pan-Alpha for organizing this event, which was also brought to you by Philippine Association of Food Technology, Alpha Chapter, University of the Philippines, Diliman, and the UP Statistical Society. A special thanks also to the UP College of Mass Communication FST Konse, Geographic Society of the University of the Philippines or UP GeogSoc, UP Future Library and Information Science Professionals of the Philippines, UP Haring Ibon, UP Physics Association, and the UP Red Cross Youth.
So shown on the screen is the link to the evaluation form for the event. Do not worry, as this evaluation link will be flashed on the screen for 5 minutes after the webinar. Please take note that the form will be open only until 8:30 p.m. today, and once you fill up this form, you can claim your e-certificate of attendance. Please give our team at least 1 week to send your electronic certificates.
Yes. And to know more about nutrition-related information, we are inviting you to like our official Facebook page, Philippine Association of Nutrition Alpha Chapter. You can also follow us on our Twitter at Pan-Alpha and subscribe to our official YouTube channel, Pan-Alpha. Doon nyo din po makikita yung kaninang video natin dun sa ating sardinas balls na alam kong gustong-gusto din na magawa and ma-recreate ng ating mga manonood ngayon. So, guys, you can always go there. And once again, this is Isaiah Manuel Sagitan.
And this is Goda Sanchez, and we have been your hosts for our webinar entitled TUSOK-TUSOK, Cooking Around the Nutrition of Philippine Street Foods. I hope everyone here has a great weekend ahead.
Stay safe and thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Stay safe, everyone. God bless
Thank you din po, Ma'am Luchi. Thank you, Ma'am Beatrice.
Ingat po kayo.
Bye-bye.
Thank you po.
Maraming salamat.
Thank you po.